So, what's popcorn actually got to do with the green transition, you may be thinking? Because usually we associate the term green transition with high-tech, futuristic technology like Tesla cars or solar panels or industrial enzymes, whereas everyday products like carrots or popcorn, they usually don't come to mind. But I would like to argue that they should. My first message to you is this. Although you, like me, probably don't think about climate change when you're waiting at the checkout line at your local supermarket, the changes we can make to our daily habits and the power that we have as consumers, it's pivotal for the green transition. But my second point is also this. Given the daunting environmental challenges that we face today, and the fact that legislation is clearly too ineffective and too slow, I believe that companies need to work faster to get the ball rolling. They need to engage in corporate activism. And I'd like to share with you what may seem insignificant in the greater scheme of things, how popcorn and carrots actually can play a big role in the green transition through corporate activism. But first things first, my name is Signe, and I have a background in environmental studies. I have been working with environmental issues for nearly 20 years at government and NGOs, and my toughest job so far to influence my 2 teenage daughters. And you may be thinking, corporate activism? Hang on, Signe. Isn't it the short-term profit-maximizing companies that brought us all the environmental problems to begin with? So how can we suddenly expect them to be part of the solution? Well, my experience is this. Having worked also for a private sector at a Danish supermarket called Coop, is that making profit, which is a prerequisite to exist in the market, is not in opposition to be a leader in sustainability. However, I will admit that some companies definitely have a long way to go, because it's not enough just to write a glossy CSR report or to do a fancy marketing campaign. No, if you want to be a leader in sustainability, you need to integrate sustainability concerns into the core of your business model. You have to apply your business model to solving some of these problems that society is facing today, to integrate sustainability into the core of your business. And the pressure to do this is thankfully growing, but not from politicians or from environmental campaigners, but from companies themselves. So only last month, a group of multinationals who are trying to integrate sustainability concerns into their business models, they placed this ad in the New York Times, and it's an open letter to the biggest US companies imploring them to integrate sustainability into the core of the business, to walk the talk. Now, the company I come from, that's not a multinational. It's tiny by comparison, but it is a relatively large company in Denmark. We don't have any shareholders. We are owned by our own consumers. It means that we are cooperative. And I think that shapes how we think and how we act. So, of course, it's our role to supply our customers with the products that they want, but we also try to use our business and our buying power to encourage and support environmentally friendly solutions along the value chain and to empower the consumers. And I'd like to share with you some of my experiences that I've had throughout the years working with corporate activism. Because I sometimes wonder what would the world look like if all companies were owned by their consumers? And I hope some of the examples that I'm bringing to you today will maybe give you some inspiration. And I'd like to start by telling you the story of the organic movement in Denmark. So we have to go way back to the 1970s. This is when scientists first began publishing reports that documented that conventional farming methods were having some negative environmental side effects. Our waterways were becoming polluted with too many nutrients and excessive use of pesticides. And my counterparts back then, they read these reports and they got concerned and they wanted to offer our customers, our owners, an alternative. So they decided, against all advice, to introduce organic products for the first time in supermarket stores in Denmark. And this was in 1981. And these guys back then, they were ridiculed, they were made a laughing stock, because no one thought it would take off. Yet what started with a few bags of wonky carrots is now a billion-dollar industry, because the farmers caught on to the idea, the consumers caught on to the idea, and our competitors caught on to the idea. And that spurred innovation and competition. And from being a big city phenomenon, there is now an organic product in every fridge, in every Danish household, as we speak. In fact, Denmark is the country that has the highest share of organic market share in the world today. So you may say, Denmark is a small country, we're only 5.7 million people. But you could say we are an organic superpower. Thank you. Yes, you can even buy organic men's underwear in stores today. So what's not to like? Now, the organic movement came about not because of visionary policy making or legislation. It happened because consumers and companies acted together collectively, wanting a change. So legislation only came into place years later. But I think it shows that companies often pave the way for the politicians, showing them that tougher sustainability demands is not only possible, it's also economically viable. Now, the experiences from helping build the organic movement really got us going in Co-op, so we wanted to do more, and we have done many things, but I would like to share with you one example where we really built on the lessons that we learned from the organic movement, but where we took corporate activism a few steps further. So some years ago, we started looking into chemicals in food packaging. Yes, there are chemicals in food packaging. And what we found shocked us. Leading scientists were telling us these chemicals are commonly used, they are still illegal, but our research is telling us they are harmful to the human health and to the environment. So we thought, oh my God, we can't sell that to our consumers, to our owners. We have to do something. So we decided to ban 12 groups of chemical substances. And we even gave them a name. We called them the Dirty Dozen. And there's these nasty guys up here. They all have, different personality and different characteristics of nastiness that they can do to you and to the environment. So in order to eradicate the Dirty Dozen, we set up about 100 demands. We set up a very strict compliance system that we wouldn't bend. We struggled with global transnational companies to get them to comply with our demands. But luckily, most of our suppliers, they also wanted to eradicate the Dirty Dozen. But there was one final product in the end that was giving us such a headache, a real troublemaker. And it was this little innocent looking package of popcorn here. What can possibly be wrong with that? But inside it, there's a bag that contained fluorinated compounds. And fluorinated compounds, that's no joke, you know. It's one of the nastiest guys of these guys. It's carcinogenic, and they don't decompose in the environment. Yet, no one in the entire world could find us a safe packaging solution. So, in the end, we simply had to take the product off our shelves, and we did so. And then we waited 1 month. We waited 3 months. We waited 5 months. And then finally, after 6 months, our supplier called us. They were so proud because they've been working hard to invent a safe packaging solution for us. And I guess they were also very happy because what a fantastic business opportunity for them, being the only supplier in the world being able to supply this. And we were happy because we had now eradicated the dirty dozen. So that was great. But do you sometimes know the feeling that a victory can be bittersweet? Yeah? That was how it felt, actually. Because we now knew it was possible to do without these chemicals. Yet, they were still legal, they were still commonly used in society. So instead of saying mission completed, we said, let's embark on a campaign together with our consumers. So our consumers, they signed petitions that we sent off to the Danish Parliament, urging them to ban the fluorinated compounds. We campaigned alongside NGOs, we spoke and discussed with many politicians, and finally, the Danish government has decided to ban the fluorinated compounds from food packaging, making Denmark the first country in the world to do so. Again. Thank you. But the great thing is that it didn't even stop there. The thing really began to snowball because all the way over in the US, activists had seen that campaign that we were doing in Denmark, and they thought, hey, we don't want fluorinated compounds in our packaging either. So they decided to start their own campaign. And they campaigned in Washington State to get them to ban the fluorinated compounds. And the little package of popcorn, that little troublemaker, that actually became the symbol for their fight, because it illustrated that change is not only possible, but also economically viable. And in 2018, the ban was implemented over there. And it didn't stop there. The phone began ringing. It was the US supermarket store, Whole Foods, called us. Hey guys, what is it that you're doing? It was a French supermarket chain, called us. Casino saying, can you please share all your experiences? It was the Nordic Council of Ministers who called us. Well, they didn't actually call, they wrote a letter, but they wanted to hear our experiences again. And finally, the European Commission asked us to come to Brussels because the European Commission was writing up a new chemicals policy for the entire European Union. And could we please come and share our experiences? And of course we would, because that's also corporate activism. But I think, and I hope that illustrates, what seemingly is a very insignificant product, like popcorn, has everything to do with the green transition on a global scale. And I also hope that it illustrates in a broader sense that corporate activism is not only about supplying the products, the sustainable products to the market, but it's also sometimes to campaign for legislative changes for the greater good. Now today, we face probably the greatest challenge humanity has ever faced, climate change. And that requires companies and consumers to act together for change like ever before. We need corporate companies to engage in corporate activism, to engage for the greater good. We need bold politicians, and we need the consumers on board the green transition. So remember, the next time you stand in your local supermarket, the choices that you make affect the world of tomorrow and the future you desire. And remember that every little change can have a great impact, and sometimes even more than you can imagine. Thank you.